Okay, let's be honest. We all lie. And yep, we all get lied to. But have you ever stopped to think about what really separates a tiny harmless fib from a really destructive lie? It's easy to think it's just black and white, truth versus fiction. But the reality? It's so much more complex than that. So let's dive in and break it all down. So think about this for a second. Is telling your friend, "Oh my gosh, I love your new haircut," when, you secretly think it's a total disaster, is that the same thing as a coworker straight up inventing a story to take credit for your hard work? I mean, technically, they're both lies, right? But deep down, we know they're not the same at all. One feels like kindness, and the other, that's just betrayal. The difference isn't the lie itself, it's the why behind it. And that right there is the big idea we're going to unpack today. The motive. The motive is literally the key that unlocks the whole mystery. Because once you figure out why someone is lying, you suddenly understand the lie, and you get a much clearer picture of the person telling it too. So, first up, let's start with the most common, the most relatable category out there. These are the lies that are born from our need to just get by in this super complex social world we're all living in. And that brings us to our first type, the occasional, or as you probably know it, the white liar. Come on, we've all been this person, right? The main reason here isn't to deceive anyone. It's really about social grace. It's about choosing to keep the peace instead of dropping a harsh truth bomb, all to protect someone else's feelings. Honestly, these kinds of lies are so common and so widely accepted that they're basically like a social lubricant. They just keep our day-to-day interactions running smoothly. So it's less about trying to be dishonest and way more about a kind of social kindness. It's just a simple tool we use to sidestep any awkwardness or totally unnecessary conflict. But okay, not all social lies are about protecting other people. Sometimes they're all about protecting ourselves. And this is where we meet the defensive liar. The motive here totally shifts. It's no longer about social harmony, it's about pure self-preservation. The driver here is just plain fear. Fear of getting in trouble, fear of being embarrassed, or of facing some kind of punishment. You know the classic scene, right? The kid standing next to a broken vase saying, "It wasn't me." Well, that same behavior can absolutely carry over into adulthood. Except now, the stakes are way, way higher. We're talking about a job, a friendship, a relationship. All right, so now we're going to level up a bit. Let's talk about what happens when lying stops being a specific choice you make in the moment, and instead it becomes this ingrained, almost automatic behavior. And this is where we meet the compulsive liar. For this person, lying isn't a strategy. It's a reflex. A lot of the time, the lies don't even have a clear point or benefit. It's almost like a switch is stuck in the on position, and the lies just kind of spill out. So we're not talking about some grand evil scheme here. It's just an automatic response. They might make up a story just to make a boring conversation a little more exciting, or to puff themselves up a bit without even thinking about it. And over time, for them, that line between what's real and what's made up can get really, really blurry. Okay, now let's take it one step further from compulsion. Here we find the habitual or chronic liar. And for this person, lying isn't just a bad habit anymore. Nope, it's woven into the very fabric of who they are. It's literally how they build their reality for everyone else to see. So what's the difference? Here's the key distinction. For a compulsive liar, it's a reflex. It just happens. But for a habitual liar, it's their entire constructed reality. The lies become their story, their whole identity. And pretty soon, they can't even tell the difference between the two themselves. All right, now let's look at a slightly different type of habitual liar, the careless liar. This person usually isn't trying to be malicious or anything. They just lie out of pure thoughtlessness. They don't really think about the consequences, and man, they have a hard time keeping their own stories straight. And because they don't put any real effort into these lies, they're often the easiest ones to catch. Their stories will contradict each other, the little details will keep changing, and the whole thing just tends to fall apart super fast. Okay, deep breath. We're now moving into our final and definitely most complex category. This is where lying stops being a shield or a habit and transforms into an actual weapon, a tool for manipulation and control. And we're kicking off this section with a term I'm sure you've heard before, the pathological liar. These people are, well, they're masterful storytellers. They are so skilled at weaving bits of truth with total fiction, creating these incredibly convincing stories that, you guessed it, always serve their own agenda. What makes them so incredibly effective and, frankly, so dangerous is their charm and their complete lack of guilt. They can look you straight in the eye and spin this elaborate tale, a story designed for one reason and one reason only: to get something from you. Maybe it's admiration, maybe it's sympathy, or maybe it's something a lot more tangible. Now, separate from that, we have the pure manipulative liar. See, while a pathological liar might sometimes seem compulsive, a manipulative liar is always strategic. Every single lie is a calculated move. It's a tool they use to get a very specific result. So, what's the difference in a nutshell? Think of it like this. The pathological liar might lie just for the thrill of the story. It's almost like an art form to them. But the manipulative liar, they only lie to get something specific. For them, a lie is just the fastest, most direct tool to get the job done, period. And that brings us to our final type, the narcissistic liar. For this person, lying is basically a defense mechanism, and it's all built to protect an incredibly fragile ego. Their version of the truth is actually pretty simple. Whatever makes them look good, that's true. And anything that challenges that perfect image, well, that just has to be a lie. They'll twist facts, they'll deny things you know they said, and they'll even make you start questioning your own memory, your own sanity. You've probably heard of this tactic. It's called gaslighting, and it serves one single purpose: protecting their delicate image of perfection and superiority no matter what the cost. So we've gone through all 8 of these types now, from that harmless little white lie all the way to the cold, calculated, manipulative one. After all that, what's the one key thing you should really walk away with? It's this: the lie itself is just the tip of the iceberg. It's what's hidden underneath, the motive, that tells the real story. Whether it's kindness, fear, a bad habit, or a raw desire for control, that's what gives every lie its true meaning and its power. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. As you go about your day, your week, which of these patterns are you going to start noticing around you? And maybe, just maybe, the more important question is, which of these do you recognize in yourself? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.